Hello there everyone, Raj here. I hope all of you are doing well. This is part 2 of a recent fragrance haul that I've done. I've been picking up a bunch of bottles over the last couple of months after going a very long time without buying anything. And if you missed the last video, that's part 1. I was waiting for a handful of fragrances to arrive in the post, so I thought let me just split this haul into 2 videos. So yeah, this is part 2. Again, very similar theme, lots of vintage stuff in here, or classic fragrances. A few modern ones, maybe one or just 2 modern day fragrances, and I've got some vintage miniatures to share with you as well. So if you missed part 1, or if you want to look back at just prior haul videos that I've done, this will be part of a playlist of all the acquisition pickup videos that I've done over the year, so you can look back, and I'll leave the link down below. And also, just before I get into the video, I just wanted to wish everyone who is celebrating a happy Diwali. You might actually hear, I'm not in the middle of a war zone, you just might hear a lot of fireworks going off in the background. So yeah, happy Diwali however you're celebrating, and wish you all of the best. So let's get into the video. Okay, so let's kick things off with some miniature fragrances. Now, there were 2 that I bought, but, you know, again, with the generosity, a bunch of free stuff that were thrown my way, like quite a bit. I was really taken back by how many free things were thrown in for me, which was really great. I really appreciated that. The first one to show is from Guerlain, and this one is Derby. It says Derby de Guerlain there, actually, which is quite interesting because that's or different. And you got the ingredients in the back there. Or the Toilette Pour Homme. These are a great way, 7.5 ml. These are a great way of just getting into vintage fragrances just without committing to a full-size bottle. And talking of bottles, this is the original design. I believe there were 3 iterations. It went from this one into the what's commonly known as like the Listerine style bottle, and then the version that I have, which is the Parisian collection, I think, with the wooden frame. So really looking forward to diving into that one. It is probably one of, if not the, but up there in the top, I don't know, 3, 4, top 5 fragrances of all time for me. So looking forward to seeing how it compares to the modern day version. If you tried this or any of the others, do let me know your thoughts. The next one is from Nino Cerruti. Now, I actually bought this for my dad. I'm going to give this to him. A while ago, I remember him mentioning that he used to wear this Cerruti fragrance, and he remembers, really good memory, he remembers this red circle. I guess it does stand out quite a lot. And so I'm going to give this to him when I next see him. So this is the bottle. I might steal a few drops. Don't tell him, guys, but I might just steal a few drops and just to see how it is. Very interested to see how this one develops, or if it's even held up over time, or whether it still smells like he remembers. I don't know. I do want to bring my dad back on the channel. We're just trying to figure things out. He will be back. I know a lot of you quite enjoyed watching the videos with him, so yeah, that would be quite cool maybe to talk about vintage fragrances. And then, as I said, a bunch of free stuff. I can't show everything because I'll be here all day, but a bunch of free things were thrown my way, which some of them I've been meaning to get my nose on for a long time. This is Vintage Antaeus from Chanel. I actually really like the modern day version. I know a lot of people say it's nowhere where it used to be, or what it used to be, but yeah, I'm looking forward to trying this just to see how the modern day compares with the vintage. This one is from Hermes. This is Equipage. This is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. So I was really happy when I got this one because, again, it will be good to compare. I still have my bottle. It's almost done. I probably have like 1 spray left. So it'll be interesting to compare how this one compares to the modern day version. Another one of my favorites, Chanel pour Monsieur, but this one is the concentré version. This is actually a spray. It's more of a small sample rather than a miniature. It all says at the back, alcohol, aqua, parfum. So you know it's vintage. That's one of the signs anyway. I'll open it up actually, just so you can see. They're pretty nice actually. They're quite chunky looking samples. So Yeah, looking forward to seeing how that one compares. This is the Eau de Toilette Concentré version, so I don't know if that used to be... I think that's discontinued and it's now the Eau de Parfum. I don't really know the history. And then next up from Façonnable, I think that's how you say it. This is going to be an interesting one to try. I've seen this around, well, I've heard it mentioned or seen it online. One of those where you never really get a chance to try it. So this is cool. This is a nice looking bottle. Looking forward to getting into this one. Let me know, guys. What have you off any of these? Do you own any of them? Have you tried them? All right, let's get into the full size bottles now. Fragrance number 1 from Givenchy. There were supposed to be 2 Givenchy fragrances in here, but Xerius didn't quite materialize, so there I got a replacement. But I've got one really great fragrance to show from Givenchy. This is Givenchy Gentleman. This is the original that came out in the 70s. I think it was I've actually got it in front of me here. 1974. Paul Léger was the perfumer. Now, I used to own this fragrance. This is the box. I used to own this fragrance probably 10, 12 years ago, approximately, and really, really enjoyed it. It's quite an unusual fragrance, I think, looking back, for me to own, or any maybe younger guy in their 20s to own. But this one really stood out in my memory as a fragrance that I need to get back into my collection. And so this one actually comes in a deodorant spray, or not, yeah, just like if you just hold down on it, it never stops. So pretty interesting. 28 ml. Not sure what happened to the other 2 ml or why it had to be 28, but this is quite powerful stuff actually. It's quite sharp and bracing and sweet. It's got this kind of animalic, floral, sweet, leathery feel to it. I'm not going to go into all the note breakdown for every fragrance, otherwise this video will go on for hours. But yeah, I'm really pleased to have that one back into my collection. Probably one of the more maybe experimental, or not my typical style, but interesting to have as a way of just, understanding and getting, expanding my knowledge or of vintage stuff, or the history of perfumery, or just reminding me actually just what fragrances I used to own. And yeah, have you tried this one, guys? Givenchy Gentleman. Okay, next up is from Azzaro. Now, I never owned a full bottle of this one. This one is Azzaro Pour Homme. I did actually used to have this in a official Azzaro 10 ml spray, or it was like a smaller spray, which came in a very thin looking atomizer, which was orange and had a black cap like this. And I do remember really, really enjoying it. So this is the box. If I have the box, I will show it. This is a 50 ml, and there's a whole bunch of writing at the back. I won't let it sit here on the screen for too long, but I will read it out because it's quite funny actually. It says, "A dash of humor, a hint of defiance, and a touch of elegance. That's the magical cocktail I have chosen for Azzaro Pour Homme, a refreshing blend of aniseed, woody lavender notes made just for you." So, thank you very much. I believe it's Lois Azzaro. Does it say that here? It doesn't actually, but I think that's the name of the designer. Parfum Azzaro, made in France. Yeah, this is a real classic fragrance actually. And I wore it the other day to work. 1978 release. Gerard Anthony and Richard Wirtz in this composition. Fresh, barbershop, shaving cream, shaving foam, that kind of thing. The opening is amazing. I really love the opening. It reminds me a little bit, in some ways, to Tuscany per Uomo by Aramis. And great, I love this bottle actually. It's quite stylish actually, in a kind of subtle way. The colors really, really work. So Azzaro Pour Homme, yeah, two real classics here. Next up is a fragrance that is, I guess you would call it like a modern day version, and this is, or modern day flanker. This is from Chanel. This one is Pour Monsieur. Now this is the Eau de Parfum version. And this is the box. I quite like these boxes actually. They're quite simple actually. Quite kind of black, almost like you could say they're bland, but I just like the style. This is the Eau de Parfum version of Chanel pour Monsieur. If you guys know, I have blasted my way through the Eau de Toilette version, which I loved. Although having just realised this cap is really, I hate these, and it's really cheap plastic, like you could crush it with your hands. So maybe actually Chanel need to improve these, but the scent is amazing. The scent is really amazing. And according to Fragrantica, this is a 2016 release. Woody Chypre, that's all it says. And I'm still getting my nose used to this. I'm still getting around to wearing this one. Definitely some similarities to the Eau de Toilette. It seems to go in a much more lemon balm, kind of lemon tea, slightly sweeter, I feel. It doesn't have any of that zing and that effervescence of the original. My gut feeling is that the Eau de Toilette is better, but I'm going to wear this, I'm going to put a dent into it, and then do a comparison between the EDT and the EDP. If you have experience of both, let me know which ones you prefer. Right, next is a fragrance that I've heard about pretty much ever since I got into, or properly, really enthusiastically got into fragrances. Never was able to get a bottle, partly because it's very hard to find, it's discontinued, and the ones that were available were just like unbelievably expensive. And I actually ended up getting an aftershave version. So in the UK we say aftershave meaning cologne, fragrance, but I literally mean the stuff that you spray or splash onto your face after shaving. And this one is Patou Pour Homme. And this is a spray aftershave version. And you've got all the ingredients or all the notes that they've mentioned at the back here, which is pretty interesting. Demonstration, not for sale. Well, I definitely bought it. This is pretty nice. I've got to say, this is pretty nice. Now, I don't think I'm getting the full experience because this is a kind of essentially like a watered down version. It does smell kind of a little bit muted, but still noticeable. But what I'm getting is something actually I find quite unique. It feels familiar. I feel like I have smelled this somewhere before, probably on someone. 1980 release, Jean Curlieu. And yeah, I mean on the back here in French it has a whole bunch of things like, witch hazel, vetiver bourbon, Virginian cedar, Indian sandalwood, santal de Mysore, poivre de Malabar, piment, so some peppers here, pimento, and yeah, vetiver, sandalwood, labdanum, civet, leather, lavender. I mean, there's a whole ton of ingredients. This feels like opening up a cupboard, a wooden cupboard that has real authentic sandalwood in it, very creamy, soft, touch of spice, and you open it up, and as you close the door you get that waft of a little bit of spices, maybe some kind of like some sandpaper kind of wood shavings after you've sanded down some wood. Some black pepper in there, some smoky herbs in there, and you get that as you close the door. And it's really quite, it's quite, like you could wear this to a temple. It kind of gives me that feeling. This is a very interesting fragrance, and even as an aftershave, it does push off the skin for a decent amount of time. It doesn't last all day, and it would be really great to try the original. They're just so expensive, and you rarely see them online. This one, ever since I got into fragrances, I always heard about Patou Pour Homme. So many people said this is the greatest fragrance ever, and I can see that. I mean, I don't know if I ever got like maybe a miniature. Would I think it's the greatest fragrance ever? I have no idea. Maybe sometimes the hype in your mind distorts things or whatever, but really great fragrance. I've got to say, paid a little bit more than I would normally pay for a fragrance, especially for an aftershave version, but really pleased to have that into my collection. A great addition, I think. Okay, moving on to a fragrance that was actually given. I was going to say gifted. It was really just given to me. I've had this fragrance in my collection for a while now. So going back to last Christmas, 2023, I got home after spending time with family, and I was unpacking my bags, and I found a bottle of Quorum. This is the Eau de Toilette. This is the modern day version of Quorum by Antonio Is it Puig? Is that how you say it? And I thought, this is the box, so this is a modern day box, is how it looks. And I thought to myself, was I gifted this? Did somebody give this to me? Do I just forget that I completely unwrapped a bottle of Quorum on Christmas Day? But actually my aunt, who wasn't a fan of this or didn't like the way it smelled on my uncle, she just kind of put it in my bag and just palmed it off to me basically. So actually I quite like this fragrance. It's quite interesting. I don't know what the vintage smells like. This is a 1981 release. Carlos Benaim, Max Gavari and Rosende Mateo created this. So some pretty, at least two of them. I don't know who this Max guy is, but yeah, woody aromatic fragrance, pine trees, patchouli, carnation, sandalwood, caraway, artemisia, lemon, bergamot, a bunch of other things. Reminds me of Patou Pour Homme a little bit. It's got that. It reminds me of that in the kind of as the fragrance develops, especially as I wear this on the chest. It gets very, very sweet to a point where it feels like a clash of notes. I don't think it completely works, but strangely, if I spray this on like my wrist or my arm, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Francesco Smolto Pour Homme, that woody, mossy greenness, which is really beautiful. But doesn't quite develop that way when it's on the chest and it's warming up. But I think it's an interesting fragrance. It's good to kind of get my nose on what is considered the classic. I've heard that the vintage fragrances is a lot better, probably with a lot more, you know, that oak moss kind of without the regulation. So guys, again, let me know. Have you tried the modern day version versus the vintage? Are there big differences? I imagine they are. Alright, moving on to the next one, and this one was, again, a fragrance that I have had in my collection. Kind of an unexpected purchase. I hadn't owned anything from this company in a while. This might be a little bit unknown, or quite unknown, to quite a lot of you. But if you are into like traditional wet shaving, you'll probably know about Castle Forbes. This one is called 1445. I used to have quite a few fragrances from Castle Forbes, and I became familiar with them because I think their shaving creams are some of the best I've ever used. If you use a shaving brush, you need to try out Castle Forbes fragrances. This company is based in Scotland, Aberdeenshire. An abundantly fresh fougere and bergamot scent, said to smell like freshly scrubbed gentleman. An immensely clean and fresh, unmistakably British scent. 1445 celebrates the year our clan chief was honoured as the first Lord of Scotland. Okay, well, fair enough. They have a perfumery there up there in Castle Forbes, and I've had a few of their fragrances, and they're all pretty well put together, I think. They're not like mind-blowing scents, but very, very well made. Good ingredients. I had one called Gentleman's Cologne. I had one called Lonarch, Keeg, I think it was called. They have a Vetiver one and a Rolly one, which are pretty nice. This is actually really great, and it does remind me a little bit of the shaving cream. Not quite as foresty and green and spicy as that, but it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Eau Sauvage from Dior, but a little bit more, a touch more spicier, but it does have a very, very soapy feel. So a great fragrance, and have you tried this one, guys? And get your nose on it if you can, and if you're into traditional wet shaving with a brush, definitely try out the shaving creams. Okay, moving on to some Guerlain fragrances. I have 3 here. Now this first one, which by the way comes in this absolutely massive, I've got quite a few of these boxes now and I really don't know where to put them. In fact, if you haven't looked at the description, can you tell from the shape there which fragrance I'm talking about? I had tried this fragrance when it first came out, and this one is Lui. Beautiful bottle. Really, really fireworks are going crazy right now. Very, very beautiful bottle. And I had tried this a long time ago, and it always stood out in my mind as a fragrance that, you know, if I ever got a chance to get it into my collection, I would like to. It is discontinued in this format, but it is in the whatever the fancy collection is called, and it's got a complicated different name, I don't know. Launched in 2017, Thierry Vassar and Delphine Jelk are the noses behind this. Clove and pear, benzoin, carnation, vanilla, smoke, leather, woody notes, and musk. I think it actually goes in a different direction to what I remember, but I do remember this being kind of benzoin and vanilla, and very common notes actually used by Guerlain. Reminded me a little bit of Bois d'Armagny, but it actually does go in a very different direction to those. It has a more of has that spicy kind of clove cinnamon feel in this, with a lightness and a fruitiness and a freshness, but also a smoky vanilla base. And actually, it's really beautiful. I've got to say, I was quite impressed when I've been wearing this a few times. Looking to get used to it a bit more, and maybe do a review. So yeah, looking to expand my Guerlain collection as well. You know, I've had many fragrances from them. It's my favorite house, and there are some fragrances that I used to own, maybe would like to get back into or get some for the first time. There are 2 more to show from Guerlain, both vintage bottles. Alright, so moving on to Le Bleu. This is a 1912. 1912, can you believe it? Jacques Guerlain released this one, or made this one. This is the Eau de Parfum version. This is the concentration that I wanted to get, and I've been meaning to get this fragrance for a while. And this particular box, as you can see, it is quite an old, it is quite an old style bottle and box. And I really love this design. Actually, I love the way with the sort of zigzag kind of patterns and the gold and the black and gold. It goes really, really well together. This is actually a recharge, it's called, or recharge vaporisateur, or a natural spray refill. So it's not maybe the normal design that you would normally see. This is supposed to go inside like a holder. You'll see the next one actually is like that. And genuinely, I can genuinely say, without any exaggeration, I'm not that kind of guy, if you've watched my channel, to just say things for no reason, just to kind of hype things up. But I can honestly say this particular version is one of the greatest fragrances I've ever tried. It really floored me. I know what Le Bleu Eau de Parfum smells like, and a little bit of experience with the EDT, but this particular version just seems to have so much more heft behind it, and it is multi-layered, and it is very, very luxurious. It is really, it smells posh, it smells powdery and sweet and a little bit spicy. It has a spiced Coca-Cola feel to it. It's dry. It has a kind of a dry floral iris. It has a furriness to it, a punch. Reminds me of Shalimar a little bit in some ways. It's really, really long lasting. It's genuinely phenomenal. I really think this is. I really do think this is one of the best fragrances I've tried ever. This particular version. And the modern day version is still really great, to be honest. And I will. It sounded like a bomb is going off. I will wear this on Diwali because I think it needs to be worn on an occasion. That's when it would be best suited. You can wear this whenever you like, but I think it needs to be worn on an occasion. Look at that color, that amber and gold. It's really stunning. Really, really stunning. Have you tried this, guys? Let me know your thoughts. And even if you don't like these fragrances, don't feel like you can't comment and criticize a fragrance. It's okay. That's what makes this whole thing interesting, is, you know, a varied opinion. So let me know your thoughts. And finishing off this video with a fragrance that is almost 100 years old. From Guerlain, this is Shalimar, and this is an 80s bottle. It comes in this very gold, I mean it's completely gold, spray kind of holder. This is the Parfum, it's not going to focus, or I'm not going to get it close enough, I don't think. This is the Parfum de Toilette version of Shalimar. It says copyright 1982, Parfum de Toilette, refillable natural spray, Champs-Élysées, Paris, made in Paris. And so this thing comes off like that, And again, like the Bleue, this is a partially used bottle. Let me just put this down before I drop it and it smashes everywhere. Yeah, it says Shalimar Parfum de Toilette at the bottom. So I believe this is essentially just the eau de parfum, or what is now referred to as the eau de parfum version of Shalimar. And it's a fragrance that I have always been aware of pretty much since I got into fragrances. Never have I owned Shalimar. I don't know why. I can't actually explain why. It's quite an iconic fragrance. Never owned it. Don't know why. But here we go, and I had to rectify that, and rectify it in a big way, because this is a big fragrance. It is a big fragrance, I gotta say. Having said that, the eau de toilette, the modern day version, I think performs a little bit more. It pushes off the skin a bit more, but this one has, again, like Bleue, it has that depth. It has a bit more of a kick to it. Shalimar is different. It is a very unusual style of fragrance. It's smoky beans and smoky tonka and vanilla. And it's dry, and it's really like, it catches you in the back of your throat. If you're not ready for this fragrance, you'll be in for a surprise. It's quite floral. Yeah, bergamot and floral notes, it says here, literally floral notes. Iris, rose, jasmine, specifically, maybe. Vanilla and tonka bean. And it's complex. It's a complex fragrance, and I've always known that, but wearing this version, it made me think and made me wonder whether I really knew Shalimar as well as I did, because I've had multiple samples, I've had decants, but this has an added layer that I'm still trying to figure out, to be honest. That iris in there, that dry, chalky powderiness. It smells fizzy, and you've got that kind of sharpness from bergamot uplifting this fragrance, but really quite starkly contrasting with some of those sweeter, smoky, and quite dry florals. I find this to be a little bit sweet, but not overly sweet. It's an amazing fragrance, I've got to say, amazing. And a great addition to my collection. Really happy with this. Really happy with this haul, and I think I'm done now for a long time. I don't plan on buying anything for a while. Unless something spectacular pops up, I'm just going to continue what I was doing for like the last year and a half, enjoying what I own, wearing a lot of fragrances, finishing a lot of bottles. I anticipate to run through maybe 5 or 6 bottles in the next 5 or 6 months. And my collection is a little bit too large for my liking at the moment, but I love my collection. I love pretty much 90% of my collection I really think is amazing. So definitely made a lot better with these additions. Guys, I'd love to hear what you've picked up recently. I'm going to go and enjoy the fireworks show that's going on outside, and I wish you guys all of the best. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and take care. Bye.